isn't your dad, but they learned a thing or two from him.
We don't control the thermostats. That's a bit intrusive.
Right, they don't technically control your thermostat, but some customers are opting in to let PGE set the temp.
And it doesn't give you the heebie-jeebies knowing they can control your thermostat?
Not really.
Have you managed to read all 86 pages of Oregon's Cap and Trade sequel? First of all, if you have, wow, I'm impressed. Secondly, keep reading. We've got 177 pages of amendments for you. And we have some splaining to do, because a lot of you didn't like when we called the kicker rebate free money. Yay, that's free money. I like free money. Free money. You know, that. Here's the story.
Well, we know you're watching because you're definitely telling us so. A lot of you writing in using the hashtag HeyDan after last night's show, taking some issue with that whole free money thing. Don't worry, we're going to get to it in just a little bit. In the meantime, hello everyone. I'm Dan Haggerty. This is The Story. Welcome. This is the show where we try to make you part of the story, so we'd like you to find your phone, take it out, open it up, follow us at The Story KGW, reach out using the hashtag HeyDan, send us an email, find us on Facebook, anything. Just talk to us. And tonight, we want to start with some breaking news. Cap and Trade just passed out of committee. Calm down. Still got a long way to go on that one, but we're going to tell you why it's so important in just a bit. But first, let's get to our big story tonight. A brand new edition of Pat Doris's series, Power Struggle. It's all about what happens when coal plants begin to shut down in our area, getting rid of all of those dirty but reliable fossil fuels. Now, tonight's story is all about how one of our local power companies wants to actually, very literally, take control of your thermostat. So when it's super hot outside or super cold and a lot of people are using a lot of energy, PGE can actually go in and turn yours down to save some power. Now, whether you think that's smart or creepy is up to you, but no matter how you feel about it, you should probably know the details because it's likely in our future.
Back in the 1980s, KGW went to Wyoming to examine coal mining and the way the trains brought coal to Oregon. The mines and the coal-fired electric plants kept the lights on across the West for decades. We wondered back then if a day would come when the coal trains would stop running and the big coal plants shut down. Now that day is closer than ever, and utilities are trying to figure out how to replace the dirty electricity those plants create. One side of the equation involves creating more renewable sources of energy like wind farms and solar plants. The other side is getting customers to use less power or use it at times with lower demand.
With coal going away in the West, we're going to have to depend a lot more on renewable energy. But here's a big problem with that. Unlike coal with its steady supply of power, renewables go up and down a lot. Wind turbines can only make electricity when the wind blows, and solar panels can only produce power when the sun shines. And the utilities are going to have to be able to make demand go up and down at the same time as supply. And the real tricky part, it has to happen at exactly the same time.
Energy is the only commodity that has to be consumed the instant it's generated. And the grid, as you can see, has to always be in balance.
But how can you quickly move demand down when the wind stops blowing or up when the sun shines? That's what we will focus on in this report, because it is a big part of what's coming in our energy future. And the future is being created right now. And whether you like it or not, it will have a direct impact on you.
So this here is my Nest thermostat. It's a second generation thermostat.
Henry Hall in Southeast Portland is already living one version of the energy future. He's one of 20,000 Portland General Electric customers taking part in a smart thermostat experiment. He allows the power company to automatically turn his thermostat down when it's super cold outside and everyone else is turning up the heat. It's called a peak demand event because, well, the demand for energy is peaking. In the summer, he lets PGE turn his air conditioner down when it's super hot during a peak event.
They're really good about letting you adjust it yourself if you decide you want to change it if it's uncomfortable, but they also pre-adjust. So if it's going to be a hot day and they're expecting really high air conditioner usage, they will turn it down in advance to make your house colder, but it'll warm up.
A couple degrees up or down does not sound like much, but if PGE could get all 881,000 customers to take part, that does add up in a big way and would help them move demand up or down to match the supply. But there is a big hurdle to clear: the psychological impact of knowing the power company can intrude into your life, into your home or business. The utility knows it is a touchy subject. Listen to the way the PGE expert reacts when I ask him about controlling people's thermostats.
I mean, I don't We don't control the thermostats. That's a bit intrusive. Customers don't want that.
Technically, he's right. PGE sends a message to Nest, and then Nest controls the thermostat. Some, like Henry, are fine with it either way.
And it doesn't give you the heebie-jeebies knowing they can control your thermostat?
Not really. If I want to control it myself, I can just disconnect it from the wireless.
I'm energy conscious. I try to be aware of my energy usage. For example,
Kelly Piper lives in Corbett. She's part of the same experiment and has another type of smart thermostat called an Ecobee.
they will adjust my temperature by 2 degrees, either higher or lower, whether it's summer or winter, depending on the event for 2 hours, and I'm fine with that.
But as you might expect with an experimental program, it has hit a few bumps in the road. Kelly's thermostat has a screen for messages, and the first couple messages sent to her made no sense.
It said something about your thermostat will be increased by -3 degrees higher over the next 4 hours. And I thought, what?
She's also frustrated that it does not take into account her current temperature settings.
If there's a high demand on the grid system and they want to adjust the system, I have no problem with that. But they adjust it blanketly to everyone by 2 degrees, regardless of where your thermostat is set. So if I'm set at 64, they'll drop it down to 61 or 62 degrees, which is really cold. The thermostat itself is a smart program. The energy efficiency program that PGE has implemented is not so smart.
The program does allow Kelly to override the change and turn the heat back up if she wants. PGE has a second program that alerts customers who do not have smart thermometers that a peak event is coming and asks them to turn down the thermostat themselves. Both programs offer a few bucks for taking part in the peak demand events.
Thermostat control is just the beginning. Not too long from now, with your permission, computers from the power company could be able to control your refrigerator, your hot water heater, even the solar panels on your roof. That would allow them on a large scale to reduce the amount of energy that's being used when supply is low, but demand is high.
Take a look. This past summer on August 28th, when the temperature hit 97 degrees in Portland for the second day in a row, PGE called one of those peak events and asked customers in the experiment to turn down their power use, meaning air conditioners and fans. And many did.
This was the load curve, or the amount of demand on the system for this day of August 28th, 2019. And as you can see, as the day ramped up, so did demand for electricity. And this little thing right here, this little drop, believe it or not, is blown up over here. And you can see that by asking customers to reduce for just a short period of time, we were able to find 50 megawatts that we didn't have to purchase on the market. That meant that we saved customers a whole bunch of money.
The electricity saved was the equivalent of the amount used to power 40,000 homes. But it is hard to get customers to take part in these large-scale experiments. PGE gets 2 to 7% of its customers to take part right now. They'll need way more than that in the future. Which is why the company is also running another experiment, automatically enrolling PGE customers in various parts of its territory without asking if they want to be part of the program, and then offering them different incentives to see what works best. Those customers can also opt out. It's all geared to giving the power companies maximum flexibility in the future as their supply of energy moves up and down. And it will take some getting used to.
And what about the psychology of changing the customer behavior or making them comfortable with it? You know, you don't like the term of you're controlling their thermostat.
That's right.
And it's because of the psychology of it, right?
Yeah. So we would like for people to get it, love it, and forget about it.
Which is why PGE is also running a hot water heater experiment to test if people even notice when the company controls it. A PGE contractor installed switches on every hot water heater here at the Monte Vista Apartments in Southwest Portland.
So there's an algorithm inside the switches that we use on these water heaters that take into account when the customer wants hot water, when they're normally using hot water, and that balances our requests for services. But it always puts a priority on for the customer to receive the hot water.
The apartment management loved the idea.
So it was brought to our attention. It was something that we were very interested in doing.
Because you have 280 some?
288 apartments.
Wow.
Yeah.
So a little change in the energy use at each one can really add up.
Exactly.
The switches were installed over a year ago. All the residents were informed. PGE controlled the water heaters 59 times over the first 3 months last winter. And do you get any negative feedback? People saying, hey, I don't have any hot water?
We don't.
Of the 288 apartments here, only 3 refused to allow the switch to be installed. The manager is sold. The future has arrived.
The more that people are around it and getting used to it and getting educated with it, the more comfortable they are. But I can't see us going anywhere other than that, the smart grid.
As the steady supply of electricity from coal plants becomes a smaller and smaller part of our power supply, more utilities will move to creative options to influence demand.
Pat Doris joining us now. I'm going to verbalize what I think a lot of people at home are thinking right now.
Okay.
Good idea. Sounds a little bit creepy.
Yeah.
The fact that a company is going to have its kind of fingers in my household and able to pull the strings.
Yeah, we've heard that from a lot of folks. The utilities are hoping that over time it gets less creepy and that it becomes sort of like, you know, when you got an electronic deposit on your paycheck. A lot of us grew up always taking that paper down, showing it to the teller, making sure they know we deposited, and now it's no big deal. You just trust that it happens okay. They're hoping that's what happens with this.
So you're continuing this series, Power Struggle, which is, man, it's been so timely right now with everything that we're talking about. What's next?
We're starting to look to the future of power. So we're going to investigate nuclear, something called pump storage, where they pump water up and run it back down through a generator, batteries, all kinds of different stuff.
A lot of people have been commenting and really liking these pieces. Do you feel like even you are learning things that you didn't know were happening here in this community?
Tremendously. I had no idea that there is this tectonic shift going on in the way that electricity is made and the way that we're going to use it. And it's going to affect all of us.
Exactly. It's going to affect every single person at home. And this piece is a clear example of that. So get on our YouTube page. Check out Pat's series, Power Struggle. Pat, thank you so much.
What do the Hamburglar and the TriMet Barber have in common, besides having nicknames that sound like Batman villains or something? Well, like villains from Batman, they keep popping back up. Why is that? And cap and trade gets even cappier and tradier. And remember when we called the kicker rebate free money? Well, a lot of you didn't like that very much. We're going to get into it when the story continues.
We say it all the time here on The Story. You are a very big part of the show at home. When you pick up your phone and you use it using the hashtag HeyDan, send us an email, maybe a message on Facebook. We read all of them, and we take all of them very seriously. We heard you loud and clear when you criticized us a bit on how we characterized Oregon's kicker rebate. Yay, that's free money. I like free money.
Free money, free money.
Yeah, the whole free money thing didn't go over all that well. Look, we don't want to write stuff that distracts from the story, and the phrasing in that one clearly did. So if you ask me, if we distracted you, then we probably should have written it a different way. Bob Rubenshun, he wrote me and said, taxpayers overpaid and they simply were returning their overpayment. They are required by law to return overpayments of taxes to people. He went on to say, I enjoy most of your news stories. I'll take it. He's also right, by the way. Oregon's Constitution says that if the state takes too much of your money, then they have to send some back to you, and that's exactly what's happening now. But until it makes it back into your account, it's kind of the state's money still, and they're always trying to find new ways to keep it. Just a few months ago, the governor talked about capping the kicker for higher earners and slicing off a big chunk of it to pay the state's PERS debt. The kicker is not exactly guaranteed. So yes, it is your money, depending on how you look at it, but you definitely earned it. So it's not free. Thanks to Bob for writing in, and for everybody out there who cares about what we're doing here and how we're doing it. Keep those questions and the critiques coming in. Instagram works, so does Facebook, email, and Twitter. Use the hashtag HeyDan.
By day, he appears to be a normal man, but by night, he's a super criminal. A maestro of unapologetic underpants thievery, stealing $600 worth of meat by stuffing it down his pants. Barry Sanders is... No, not that Barry Sanders. This Barry Sanders is the Hamburglar.
Yeah, you think we're joking, don't you? We're not. We're not joking. I mean, we're joking a little bit. We like to have some fun here on the story, but the one thing we don't want to ever do is waste your time. So everything that you just heard there is 100% true. I mean, Barry Sanders isn't a Batman villain or anything like that, but like the villains in Batman, he never seems to be gone for too long, which made us think of a bigger issue in Oregon, and that's how easy it is for repeat offenders to reoffend. Barry Sanders, the Hamburglar, has been caught shoplifting dozens of times in Portland, and his MO, as you heard, is pretty out there. He's been known to steal meat and hide it down his pants. He's never stolen more than $1,000 worth of stuff, though, because that's only a misdemeanor.
Would you say you're a professional thief?
Absolutely. Absolutely, because I know the law and I know the rules, and I know what I can and what I can't do.
So the case of the Hamburglar is just one part of Oregon's problem stopping repeat offenders. You might have heard of car thieves using the I didn't know defense. It's unbelievable if you've never heard it before. Basically, until recently, if someone stole a car and got caught, all they had to say was, whoa, hey man, I didn't know this car was stolen. And they could pretty much just walk away. Then there's the high-profile case of Jared Walter. You may know this guy a little bit better by the nickname he was given, the TriMet Barber. I've honestly lost track of all the gross stories that I've had to read and tell you guys about all the stuff that this man has done to women's hair on TriMet buses. And the reason that I've had to read so many, and you've had to hear so many, is because he kept getting out of jail, and TriMet didn't have the power to ban him. I guess if there is a silver lining at all of these repeat offenders is that they revealed the problem. In 2017, a new ordinance finally gave TriMet the ability to ban people for life. And the very first person they banned for life was, you guessed it, Jared Walter, the TriMet Barber. Last year, the stolen car loophole was closed. And as for the Hamburglar, well, he just took a plea deal. He admitted to more than 1,000 crimes, and then he'll serve just over 1.5 years in prison. Then, after that, if he so much as steps foot inside of one of the places he's stolen from before, he's going right back to jail. All right, let's talk about the weather story. We got Matt Safino in here right now. When they told me what you were talking to us about tonight, I got so interested. I mean, what a weird little thing, but it makes sense.
It's really fascinating. And so basically there's a clinical psychologist up in Seattle who noticed that in his therapy sessions, more and more of his clients were stressed out about climate and climate change. So he got to thinking about this, and he started a website that deals with climate-related anxiety and trauma. So I want to show you a bit of that website right now. It's called Climate in Mind, and you can go here and poke around yourself, but I clicked on the resources here, and I went to In the News, because we're in the news, and clicked on that, and there were some interesting things that popped up about climate and mental health. I mean, and the list of resources here is huge. A couple other ones I want to share with you. Climate responses, or psychological responses to the climate crisis. First of all, there's something called climate grief. Did you know that? So let's click on that. And climate grief, he describes it here, talks about what it is. If you've ever felt sad, angry, despairing, or confused in the face of news about the destruction of, say, the Amazon rainforest or the bleaching of the Great Barrier Reef, or mass extinction of species. Well, there are resources here to help you deal with that, and it breaks it down on a local level as well. And in fact, if you go to climate communication, there's a section here on how to talk to kids and youth about climate too. So a lot of really good resources here. What it really all comes down to is communication. First of all, acknowledging your stress and your anxiety about climate change, and by doing that, you'll be able to talk to people about it. Of course, communication is the key, and that makes you feel better, but it also may help you become a better agent for change, and may just find it inspirational or empowering. So again, a really cool resource called Climate in Mind if you're stressed out about all the stories we're bringing you about climate change. All right, let's talk about our forecast just a little bit here at the end. It looks really good once we get into next week, but for Valentine's Day, it's actually not bad. We'll have scattered showers, but a lot of dry time. Rainy, soaky on Saturday, lots of mountain snow, but beginning Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, it dries out, so hopefully you feel better about that. Dan?
Good stuff. Interesting stuff, Matt. Thank you. So less than an hour ago, Oregon lawmakers passed cap and trade out of committee. We were listening into that meeting. I know, sounds fun, but honestly, it was kind of hard to hear. Oh yeah, there they are. The trucks, they're back. They're protesting again, and they'll probably be back again because cap and trade lived to see another day and another committee. And now it is even bigger than ever, more than twice as big. It went from 86 pages to 177 pages thanks to a bunch of amendments. Here are some of the important bits that we think you'll find interesting that we translated from the legalese. Gas and fuel regulations would be phased in later in areas like Bend and Klamath Falls. Places that are most impacted by climate change may face face more restrictions. They're also including 4 proposals for a logging group that's against cap and trade. Things like planting a tree planting day and looking at recycling to lower emissions. There's also a bunch of technical fixes in there for the original bill. Keep sending us your cap and trade questions. Send us really any of your questions. We love to get them. We love to try and answer them for you. So pick up the phone, follow us at The Story KGW, and use the hashtag HeyDan.
Remember when Maggie Vespa wore pants and went viral?
These are my pants. I like them. I bought them.
Well, the Willamette Week is doing a big story on it. And I'm wondering, did any of you notice my tie the last couple of weeks? I'll explain when the story continues.
All right, here's something that I think is worth your time. Maggie's pants. Yeah, I know that sounds weird. Bear with me. Seriously, have you guys seen this? Willamette Week, they compiled their annual Reasons to Love Portland edition, and this year, our very own Maggie Vespa made the list. All because a few months ago, she took a stance about her pants.
Look, our goal here is to send a message to women, to girls, to everyone. Dress how you want, look how you want. And if anyone tries to make you feel less than because of that, that's their problem, not yours. In other words, there is no one way for a normal woman to look or be. 10 years ago, if I had heard from a Jeffrey, I would have needed someone to remind me of that. Now I'm very comfortable letting it roll off my back while I wear my high-waisted pants.
All right, Maggie Vespa here in the high-waisted pants.
Still in pants.
Yes. So people just heard the clip. Explain a little bit about where that came from.
Right. So back in September, I got a message from a male viewer. His name was Jeffrey. And Jeffrey decided that he didn't like my high-waisted pants. And he told me to, and this is key, dress like a normal woman. If he hadn't said that, none of this would have ever happened. But when he did, then I kind of thought, you know what? Now this is a gift because now we can turn this around and use this as a way to empower people. Dress how you want, look how you want. There's no norm. Forget the critics. You're good the way you are.
And of course, you were talking to Portland at the time.
Yes.
But a lot more people have heard this story.
Oh my goodness. So yeah, once that happened, I got a call from an Associated Press reporter. She wrote about it. Then it was picked up by the New York Times. It was picked up by the Washington Post. I was on Inside Edition, which just felt so strange. I never thought I would be being interviewed. And now we're in the Willamette Week. This is the print edition here. And then we have a photo that my friend Liz sent me as well. And what's really cool about this is she's new to town. She saw this. She wasn't here when it happened, but she saw this in the Willamette Week, and she was so excited about it. And people are kind of, learning about this great message that KGW sent. And that's what's cool about that list. It reminds people what Portlanders love about Portland, and we're so psyched and humbled to be in it. And it points out, again, this is a double standard that women have to deal with and men, by and large, don't.
And there's really a focus on people on television. We hear it, I think, more often than other people really do. And my wife's in this industry, so I've been seeing what she's going through for years and years, and it's a real thing. People don't really write into men as much. In fact, if you've been watching us here on KGW, I've had the exact same tie on now for more than a week. Like 8 or 9 shows in a row.
Look at that tie.
And not one person has sent me an email, has called. In fact, nobody in the newsroom has even noticed. So people don't really, they're not paying as close attention to what the guys are wearing. But I really love the message. I really love the article. Were you happy with what they wrote in the Willamette?
They did a great job. And again, we're just so humbled and honored that we were even thought of. 32 things to love about Portland, and our message of empowerment was one of them. So that's awesome.
They picked the right one.
Aww.
Maggie, thank you so much. Hey, when we come back, we're going to read some of your comments here on the story. They better not be about me not wearing a tie either. And we must be catching on, man. We must be catching fire here. People are writing in left and right tonight. I love it. We're hearing one person about Maggie in the pants and me in the tie. They want me to wear a kilt. I'll talk to my boss about that. Also, when it comes to Pat's story about PGE controlling the thermostat, Cora saying, hey, I've been part of this program for a while. We can't tell much of a difference when they adjust the temps. It's also saving us a little bit of money, which sounds good, but Robert wrote in and said, what about people who need to adjust the temperature? People with disability issues, chronic illnesses, things like that. He also thinks it's a little creepy that a company is adjusting the thermostat in his house. I do want to say something to Bob, who wrote in when I called the kicker rebate free money. He had an issue with that along with some other people. He wrote back tonight when we clarified things. He said, thanks for the clarification. Nice job. Well, thank you, Bob. I appreciate it. I'll see you back here tomorrow at 6 o'clock right here on The Story.